Well, good morning and welcome to Unity Radiant Light. I'm very happy to be here with all of you today. And today's talk is entitled Attitude Adjustments. Now, if there is anyone here who has never needed an attitude adjustment, don't worry, because this talk will still work for you as well. You can just use it to help others who might need an attitude adjustment, okay? So if you never have experienced it, don't worry. I was joking earlier that I usually need about at least three a week, three attitude adjustments, right? Just with the regular goings and comings of life and dealing with work and family and home and all of this other stuff, my attitude could use a pick me up once in a while. So I thought this would be a good approach. Unity Worldwide Headquarters sends out these booklets every so often, and not the most recent one, but a recent one is called, I don't know if you can see that or not, it might be blurry. I think I have my background blurred. Let me tell you, it's called Mornings with Myrtle, and it's 28 days of prayer and possibility, and it's some of Myrtle's quotes. Myrtle Fillmore is our co-founder, of course, with Charles Fillmore, and this little booklet was very inspirational to me. And it's got 28 days of quotes from her and then another prayer created by another Unity minister in the movement. So very powerful. You can order these through Unity World Headquarters if you'd like. I want to talk a little bit about Myrtle because she is such an inspiration to so many people. And most people who have been in Unity for a while know her story, but not everybody does. And if anyone is newer to Unity, they don't know about Myrtle's story. But basically, Unity was founded because Myrtle went through a very powerful and what appeared to be miraculous healing process. She was diagnosed with tuberculosis and malaria at the age of 40 or 41, and she was only given months to live. And she had three small children, and she and her husband decided that they were going to seek a spiritual remedy of some sort. And she heard Dr. E.B. Weeks give a lecture in the Midwest. And what she heard was this, and this was also mentioned earlier in the service when we welcomed new people to Unity Radiant Light. It was mentioned similar to this, but I am a child of God. This is what E.B. Weeks said. I'm a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. Well, any one of us here could probably attest to the fact that we have gotten ill from time to time, correct? And even so, as a child of God, she took this very personally. And she took this quote home with her, and she decided to focus on this idea that she was made in the image and likeness of God, and that nothing could destroy that. And so she went into meditation about this. But the rest of the story, she did get healed. It took her a couple of years to really heal herself. But for someone in the late 1800s to be diagnosed with those two things, it was unheard of to survive. So just the fact that she survived is amazing. But her process was that not only did she get quiet and meditate for hours every day, but what she did was she apologized to her body. She praised the life in her body. She was talking to the cells and the atoms in her body, thanking it for doing what it was supposed to be doing, apologizing for mistreating the organs in her body, and really taking it to a whole new level, right? And she healed herself. Now, as a little girl, it's my understanding that she never believed in hell. She never believed in a punishing God. She insisted that nothing was too good to be, or beautiful to be true. Imagine being a little kid with all the stuff that's going on around, whether it's now or back then, and thinking that nothing is ever too good to be true. What an outlook. I can only imagine. I would have loved to have met little Myrtle, right? I would have loved to have met her and gotten some of her juju, so to speak. Her physical healing process that she went through was deliberate, right? It was intentional. She didn't go home and go, oh, I hope I can fix this. That wasn't it. She was very clear on telling her body, no, this is it. You are divine in nature. I am divinity in expression, so to speak. Maybe not using those words, but using that idea. And it passed through her entire body, and she was able to reverse the effects of the illness that she had. Amazing. And then as the rest of the story goes, Charles, her husband, saw what she was doing, saw what was going on, and he decided that he was going to experiment with it. Some of you may or may not know this, but whenever Charles went into meditation, he always said, I'm going to headquarters. And I just love that. I just love that. It makes perfect sense to me, right? And he experimented with it, and he had issues with his leg. There was a lot of pain involved. There was something wrong with it. I think it was shorter, etc. It was not ever completely healed. However, he made significant progress with the same type of approach that Myrtle had. And so Myrtle and Charles both were called to minister to people. She wanted to do one-on-one healing with by correspondence, and that's what started it all. The people started writing to her, and she would write back of, this is how you do it, this is how you keep it going, don't ever give up, don't ever stop, those kinds of things. If you ever want to learn more about Myrtle Fillmore, you can go to unity.org, and there is a section called the Myrtle Archive. And it's got all sorts of wonderful things on there, old documents and old writings from Myrtle. It's kind of cool to go back in history and read some of these ideas that started our unity movement, right? So what I thought I would do today is just share a couple of things with you on the attitude adjustment that came across. Here's a quote from Myrtle, and I want to share this with you because this is, to me, very powerful. She wrote, your prosperity comes through you instead of to you. And if it seems not to come, that's because you've thrown up some barrier that prevents its unfoldment through your own consciousness. Only your changed mental attitude and living habits can cause you to work with God mind in bringing about the transformation. She wrote, I bring my thoughts to a deeper level of awareness. I don't even know how to put into words what this brings up for me personally. It tells me that I always have options, no matter what I'm facing, but that the options are about me changing my mental attitude, right? It doesn't do me any good to face a challenge and blame everybody else and sit in my living room and wait for God to drop a solution into my lap, right? It just doesn't work that way. At least it has never worked that way for me. I have to do some footwork. I have to change my mind. I have to reframe my interpretation sometimes of things that are going on. When I am hurt by someone's actions, maybe they did it for a different reason than what I thought they did it for. And maybe I can reframe what's happening here. But she's talking about only your changed mental attitude and living habits can cause you to work with God mind. So we're all connected to God mind already. We don't have to wait to go to meditation and hope that we connect with God mind. We're already connected. We just need to get quiet. We just need to remember. It's really, it almost sounds too simple, doesn't it? It's like, oh, that's all. Okay. But really, how often do we forget that we're already connected to God mind? We don't have to wait to get home after a day of work that was terrible and go into meditation and then we connect. It doesn't work that way. We're already connected while we're in the situation, whatever that may be, right? It's very powerful to understand that we have options, that we have choices, and that we can choose. We can choose forgiveness. We can choose to let go of negative emotions. We can choose to walk away when it's appropriate to do so. Maybe it would be in my better interest. Don't forget, we may be 100% divine, but we're also 100% human, right? It's a paradox, right? We're going through human experiences. So those human emotions can get in the way sometimes. So sometimes it's good for me to walk away a little bit, take a moment, pause. There's a phrase that is used in recovery that's called restraint of pen and tongue. Don't write it, don't say it, stop, pause, right? Don't hit send on the email, right? That kind of thing. Changed mental attitude. All I can share with you is my experience with this approach, so to speak. I have needed attitude adjustments along the way. I'm sure we all have, for one. And as I said, if nobody's really ever needed that, I'm sure you have a friend that you could tell has needed an attitude adjustment, right? And so I've noticed in myself that sometimes when I'm in the middle of a pickle and I'm feeling pretty agitated, sometimes I don't really want to have that attitude adjustment. I want to hold on to that stuff for a little while because I'm right. Anybody relate to that at all? Yeah. But the thing is that the longer I hold on to it, the longer I feel bad. The other person may not even realize what's going on with me. They're not affected, but I am. And so I want to have that attitude adjustment. I want to be able to flip the switch, and gratitude plays a huge part in that. So I'm so grateful that I'm so grateful that we had that song, Attitude Adjustment. And I'm so grateful that everything kind of falls into place. And the daily word was about gratitude, right? Because as soon as I'm reminded of what to be grateful for, my attitude changes. Have you ever noticed that? When you start to realize, wow, I'm really blessed. Wow, I'm really, things are okay. They're not as bad as I think they are. And even if they are as bad, they could be so much worse, right? There's lots of things that flip through my mind. The things that I'm throwing out as examples don't happen all of the time to everyone for everything, okay? But they can happen sometimes, and you'll be able to develop your own approach to what works best for you when you need an attitude adjustment. The Daily Word had said, gratitude is my heart's natural response when I think of the best life has to offer. So think about that challenging situation where you need an attitude adjustment. You ever have a friend turn to you and say, well, have you done a gratitude list? It's so annoying sometimes, isn't it? I've been the friend that suggested it, and I've had friends suggest it to me, right? But when you're in the middle of something, it's the last thing. I don't want to think about what I'm grateful for right now. Didn't I tell you what's happening? But that attitude adjustment can really happen quicker when I do the gratitude list. I will give you a secret. I had a Unity minister in my life who used to suggest to people to do a gratitude list, but not just any gratitude list. He wanted you to come up with 100 things to be grateful for and bring it back to him the next week. Can you imagine? I'm grateful for this finger and this finger and this hand and this palm, right? 100 things. And yet I never heard anybody come back where they said, oh, that didn't work for me, because it really did work for them. They realized how much there was to be grateful for. The Daily Word also said, I let the first twinge of resentment remind me to return to gratitude. I pause, breathe, and remember the truth of my being. What is the truth of your being, my friends? The truth of your being is that you are divinity in expression. There is no other truth of your being. You are divinity in expression, even when you feel like you're not expressing it well at all. You are still divinity in expression. You still have access to that connection that is never broken, never gone. The only thing that I do when I get agitated is I forget. I forget the connection. I forget the powers I have access to. I forget what's important, to be grateful, to be kind, to be helpful, all of those things, right? Attitude adjustment. Maybe we could boil it down to this. Maybe this week we could just say, if I need an attitude adjustment, I need to think about Mother Myrtle Fillmore, right? Maybe that's what we could do, is just think about her miraculous story. But she had to do something. She had to tell her body she was sorry for the way she treated it and that she was going to treat it better. And that's the other thing. She did start treating it better, right? She did start taking better care of herself. She paid attention to those details. So now it's our turn. For the attitude adjustment, we need to remind ourselves of who and what we are, expressions of God in human form, having a human experience, and we are the ones that can lead by example for others to follow. Now, I've talked about this a lot as far as, the real world appears to be so chaotic right now and so angry and so full of hate, etc. But in the midst of all that, there are so many things that are getting turned upside down. There are so many things where people are actually working towards good, more good than ever before. And maybe that's what we could use to latch on to remember that there are people working behind the scenes that we don't know about that are really striving to help. So what can I do? I can pray, I can meditate, I can talk to my body, I can tell it, thank you. Thank you for keeping me so long. Thank you for no matter what I've done to you, thank you for still being here in good health and not so good health. Thank you for surviving, all of that stuff. And then I must take the action and treat it better. Right? I do want to remind you of one last thing. The first song that Joe played, called You Say, talking about, you say I'm strong when I feel weak. You say this when I feel the opposite way. It's time for us to start talking to ourselves that way, right? If your friend is struggling, you're going to tell them how wonderful they are, how loving they are, etc. And now it's time to turn the mirror on yourself. On myself too. We'll do it together. But we need to be willing to remind ourselves just how magnificent we are. Affirm our divinity, affirm our abilities to show the world what having the Christ presence inside of us, what does that look like when we put it out there into action? Full attitude adjustment, wouldn't you say? Let's do this together. And so it is. Amen. Now we're going to take this into meditation for just a couple of moments. So I invite you to get comfortable wherever you're seated. And just start by taking a few deep breaths. You may close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. And with each deep breath that you take, feel your body relaxing into the chair. Feel the air come in and out. Feels so good to have these deep breaths, filling the body with air, and then releasing it again and allowing the muscles to relax even more so. May the words that I speak now be the words of your own heart. Just as Myrtle was a catalyst for the unity movement, I can follow in her footsteps. Using spiritual principles and prayer, I can demonstrate what divinity looks like and sounds like. Today, I will embrace this idea that nothing is too good or too beautiful to be true. I focus on my own healing, no matter what kind. My focus is intentional, deliberate, just as Myrtle's was. I'm committed to using spiritual answers. I'm a child of God. I am a creation of the divine, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. I affirm health and wholeness for myself and for others. I acknowledge that my thoughts can build up in my body. And so through the power of prayer, I awaken the inner powers, the inner divine powers, to align with the Christ presence within. In truth, I am choosing to cooperate in the healing by changing my thinking. Everything is possible when I remember that I am divine in nature. I am open and receptive to my good from infinite source. My prosperity comes through me, not to me. And I am committed to changing my mental attitude when necessary in order to align myself with God mind. I affirm here and now, all is well. In this moment, I claim my attitude adjustment. I take a deep breath. I exhale out slowly. Bring myself back to this place and time. And I affirm, and so it is. Amen. When you're ready, you may open your eyes. Welcome back, friends.